Russia and Ukraine may be entering another major turning point in the war. Over the last several days, new developments on the battlefield have revealed how rapidly modern warfare is changing, as both sides increasingly rely on drones, long-range strikes, and technological adaptation rather than traditional large-scale offensives. According to several military analysts, Ukraine's latest operations appear designed to create continuous pressure on Russian logistics, infrastructure, and operational planning far beyond the front lines. Instead of focusing purely on territorial gains, Kyiv seems increasingly concentrated on disruption. Fuel depots, military infrastructure, transportation hubs, command centers, and industrial facilities have all become critical targets in this evolving phase of the conflict. Russian military bloggers and analysts have repeatedly expressed concern over the growing sophistication of Ukrainian drone operations. Coordinated attacks involving multiple drones launched from different directions are reportedly becoming more common, forcing Russian air defenses to operate under constant pressure. The psychological impact of these strikes is becoming just as important as the physical damage itself. Unlike conventional frontline combat, long-range drone warfare creates uncertainty deep behind the battlefield. Areas previously considered relatively safe can suddenly become vulnerable to attacks with little warning. This changes the entire perception of security inside the conflict. At the same time, Ukraine continues benefiting from intelligence support and advanced targeting capabilities supplied by Western allies. Satellite surveillance, reconnaissance systems, and modern battlefield coordination tools have significantly improved Ukraine's ability to conduct precision operations. Russia, however, continues adapting as well. Moscow has expanded electronic warfare systems, increased defensive fortifications, and dispersed military infrastructure in an effort to reduce vulnerability to precision strikes. Russian forces are also attempting to improve interception capabilities against Ukrainian drones. Even so, analysts say the pace of adaptation on both sides remains extremely high. The war is increasingly becoming one of the first full-scale drone conflicts in modern military history. FPV drones, electronic warfare systems, AI-assisted targeting, and long-range strike capabilities are now central elements of combat operations. The implications extend far beyond Ukraine itself. Military planners across NATO countries are carefully studying the war because many of the tactics being developed today could shape the future of warfare throughout Europe and beyond. Defense experts are particularly focused on how relatively inexpensive drones are capable of threatening highly expensive military systems and infrastructure. This has forced several governments to reconsider how future air defense systems should be structured. Meanwhile, the economic pressure of the conflict continues affecting both Russia and Ukraine. Russia has maintained high levels of military production despite sanctions, but doing so requires enormous industrial mobilization and financial resources. Ukraine, on the other hand, remains heavily dependent on continued Western military aid to sustain defensive operations and replace equipment losses. As a result, time itself is becoming one of the most important weapons in the conflict. Both sides appear convinced they can outlast the other if enough pressure is maintained for long enough. This means the war is increasingly becoming a contest of industrial production, technological innovation, political will, and endurance rather than purely territorial gains. At the same time, civilians continue facing the consequences. Air raid sirens, blackouts, infrastructure damage, and long-range strikes have become part of daily life across many parts of Ukraine. Russia has also experienced growing disruption in several regions due to Ukrainian strikes targeting strategic infrastructure. Several analysts now believe both sides are preparing for a prolonged phase of the war where sustained pressure becomes more important than major offensives. In many ways, the battlefield is no longer limited to trenches and front lines. Instead, the conflict increasingly extends into logistics systems, industrial infrastructure, transportation networks, and energy facilities. For Ukraine, this strategy may represent one of the few realistic ways to offset Russia's larger population and industrial advantages. Russia, meanwhile, continues attempting to maintain pressure through mass drone attacks, missile strikes, and continuous artillery operations. The Kremlin appears determined to convince both Ukraine and Western governments that prolonged resistance will eventually become unsustainable. But despite the pressure, Ukraine continues adapting, and that adaptability may ultimately become one of the defining factors of the entire war. Before we finish, I want to hear your thoughts on this situation. Do you think Ukraine's evolving strike strategy can significantly change the course of the war, or will Russia eventually overwhelm Ukraine through superior resources and industrial production? Leave your opinion down in the comments below. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, make sure to like the video, subscribe to the channel, and turn on notifications so you don't miss our latest updates on Ukraine, Russia, NATO, and major global conflicts as they happen. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next report.